What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman. Thank you guys for tuning in on your Sunday. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend so far. And I'm fired up to talk about today's show because we are headlining today's show talking about the Windy City Assassin, the man from Chicago, Derrick Rose. I'm going to be focusing on him for the majority of today's video, but then also at the second half of today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on the Bulls, possibly getting Fred VanVleet. There's been a lot of smoke around it. There's a lot of connections from that Toronto organization and the Bulls organization. Obviously, Fred VanVleet being from Rockford, and the Bulls in need of a point guard. And with the report that the Bulls are willing to go into luxury tax, a lot of people are starting to connect the dots that Fred VanVleet could possibly be a Chicago Bull. And then the final story, The Athletic put out an article and they said, watch out for the Bulls signing Mo Bamba. So I'll give my thoughts on that. But we're starting off today's show, so hang on with us. We're talking about Derrick Rose. Yes, we are talking about Derrick Rose. The Knicks declined the team option that they had for D Rose, which pretty much means he's an unrestricted free agent, and Bulls fans on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever social media you see Bulls fans on right now, they want D Rose back in the Windy City. I'll give you guys my thoughts on this just in a second. But guys, we're closing in on 3,000 subscribers here. I'll make this quick. If you guys want to help me out, help me look good for my bosses, free, easy way to just kind of stay in the loop. You know, free agency should be wild with the Chicago Bulls. We'll have a video out for you guys every single move. We're working our ass off for you guys, and we appreciate the support so far. If you guys want to help us out even more, just hit that subscribe button. Free, easy way. And plus, you're just going to get more Bulls content heading your way. So help us out here at the Bulls Report. But let's talk about it. D Rose coming back to the Windy City. And I think there's two sides to look at this. Because obviously you have, the emotional side. Like you have, this is the hometown kid. I mean, I don't need to explain to you Bulls fans how much Derrick Rose means to this city. Like he grew up in Chicago, obviously. Grew up a Bulls fan. Went to Simeon High School. Like he had the typical, and it was almost storybook kind of storyline on how he became a Chicago Bull. Like he was one of the top players in the country, went to college for the year. The Bulls had a 1.8% chance to win the lottery and get him. They ended up doing it. He ended up being the youngest MVP ever, and we thought it was all smooth sailing. And then obviously injuries came along and really, derailed his career. And before we get into just the personal side of everything with D Rose, my heart really goes out to him because he seemed like he had the right mindset and he had just the kind of right maturity level to be a star in the NBA. We've seen guys talking about other athletic players that aren't as mature, like John Morant and Zion Williamson. We've seen kind of their decline this offseason just because they haven't really matched the maturity level, I guess, it requires to be a star in the NBA. A lot of these guys, if you get taken top 3 in the NBA draft, you're the quarterback. You're the face of the franchise. And I don't think Ja and Zion have really lived up to maturity-wise, where we saw D Rose right away. He was a mature 20-year-old. He was a very mature 21-year-old. So, those days back when D Rose was with the Bulls, it was just special. And obviously, I would love to see D Rose back rocking these colors and seeing him at the United Center again. I'm not saying the United Center wouldn't get up and it wouldn't be incredibly entertaining, incredibly just heartfelt to see him back in Chicago. But we need to talk about this just on the court first. Listen, D Rose, I actually was able to watch a decent amount of New York Knicks basketball last year. And, Tom Thibodeau, he ended up pulling him from the rotation about midway through the season, and D Rose just never really got to crack that rotation again. But when he was playing with the Knicks, he doesn't have a lot left in the tank. I think if we remember that 2020-2021 playoff run the Knicks had, D Rose is actually a leading scorer. He averaged around 20 a game in that playoff series. He was just that crafty point guard, and he still had a little bit of burst with him. But, D Rose's game, where it is right now, he doesn't have that athletic ability to kind of still get to the rim consistently, or as consistent as he used to. He still has that nice little step back mid-range that we've really seen him develop over the last couple of years. But in terms of how he would fit currently on the Bulls, excuse me, I actually don't hate it too much. I know a lot of people are they're kind of in two camps. They're oh, we need to bring D Rose back. Let's bring back the kid. This will be awesome. Just kind of more heartfelt side of it. And then you got people who are taking just the basketball side, and they're like, no, this makes no sense on the basketball court. Why would we do this? I'm kind of in between, and I think it would actually be a great move for the Bulls to bring D Rose back. We just talked about the off-the-court stuff. In terms of what it would mean for the city, what I think it would mean for the locker room, I think that'd be great. On top of D Rose being a mentor for guys like Kobe White and Io DeSumo and Patrick Williams. Like, especially guys like Io. Like, Io grew up in Chicago, grew up a Bulls fan. To have Derrick Rose in that locker room with him, just to kind of shape him and groom him into a better basketball player, I think D Rose adds value there. But let's keep it on the court. The Bulls have had a lack of need for a point guard, or have had a need for a point guard for the past couple of seasons since Alonzo Ball went down. And yes, D Rose is not the same guy as he used to be, obviously. But I do think D Rose has value in being a potential point guard where he may not play every night, but maybe every once a week, or maybe even down the stretch when the Bulls need a backup point guard to go, maybe not give you big minutes, but to give you really quality minutes. I still think D Rose has that, where it'll be a 10-minute stretch here and there in the regular season game where it may not be the scoring outburst that we remember back from his MVP days, but it could be him getting guys easy looks, getting them in just easy like rhythm jump shots, which D Rose still has that capability. And I think if we think about this, you know, obviously the Bulls, they look like they want to run it back, right? And we've seen the Bulls at their best when they have a true point guard like Lonzo who can distribute the ball. I think D Rose knows that, and I think he'll be able to kind of fit a role with the Chicago Bulls team, and I think he would be open for it. So I'm kind of in the camp, bring him back. It would obviously have to be for the vet men. You're not going to give D Rose, anything more than that just because of where he's at in his career. But I think D Rose would love to be back in the Windy City. He could bring back his kid PJ too. He can join the AAU circuits in Chicago and all. So I'd be a fan of bringing D Rose back, the on and off the court. Obviously, the on the court positives don't really match up with the off the court positives. Like, I'm not saying if the Bulls brought in D Rose, this would change life in Chicago and be like, oh, this is the move that's going to take the Bulls over the hump and finally get them to the NBA championship. No, this would just be a move that would kind of, I think it would be a good locker room move, and I think D Rose would kind of add that Udonis Haslem kind of role that like the Heat have, or that he has with the Heat. Maybe he could have something similar with the Bulls. But that's enough rambling about D Rose. Let me know down in the comments, should the Bulls bring Derrick Rose back? Give me a Y for yes, N for no. This will be a pinned comment on today's video. Now let's shift to Fred VanVleet, because there's been a lot of smoke about Fred VanVleet possibly coming to the Chicago Bulls during NBA free agency. And I'm kind of a fan of this. I got to see where the Bulls, how they would possibly get him here, because the Bulls right now have 4 players making over $20 million in this upcoming year with Alonzo, Vooch, DeMar, and LaVine. So, and VanVleet's supposed to make $30 million. So it just financially wouldn't make sense as of right now for the Bulls to bring in VanVleet, even though we know the reports that the Bulls ownership gave Arturas Karnisovas the kind of green light to head into the luxury tax. So I think a trade, and this was actually tossed out by somebody from The Athletic, it was Lonzo and Patrick Williams for Fred VanVleet. So the Bulls would kind of be able to move off Lonzo's contract. You would have to give up that young piece in Patrick Williams, but then you would bring in Fred VanVleet. I think I would be against this trade just because I'm a big Pat Williams fan. I think he's showing the work ethic, and I think I just think it would be kind of unfair to him to kind of move off after 3 years, because we've seen him develop his jump shot. Like, we've seen strides in his game. I just think it's going to come down to more shots and a higher usage rate for Patrick Williams to kind of take that next leap in his NBA career. But in terms of how VanVleet would fit in with the Bulls, I honestly think this might be a disaster. I think this could be a thing where it's like, oh, if we roll out the starting lineup on 2K of Fred VanVleet, LaVine, DeRozan, Vooch, like whoever may be at the 4, like, I'm more thinking about defensively. Defensively, it could be a wreck. Like, LaVine, the one thing that drives me crazy about him is he is such a freak athlete, but he doesn't bring it on the defensive side of the floor. We know that. Like, that's just something he's always struggled with, like staying consistently locked in. And I get it. He's, mainly the guy that's driving the ship here offensively. But, like, the thing that bothers me is, like, we've seen him in Team USA really pick it up defensively. I just wish he would do the same thing with the Chicago Bulls. And we know VanVleet, due to his size, he's a below-average defender. VanVleet busts his ass and everything, but he won't be able to kind of get it done as, like, a guy like Smart or, like, a Patrick Beverley would on the defensive side of the floor. So, yeah, offensively, bringing Fred VanVleet in would make a ton of sense. But these games for the Bulls would be 140 to 140, and I don't think that's a recipe for success to win in the NBA. Because as we know, like, you got to be top 10 defensively if you want to win an NBA championship. Actually, the Denver Nuggets were like the first team in like 25 years to kind of prove that wrong, where you don't technically need to be a top 10 team. But if you're not a top 10 team defensively, you got to be like the Nuggets and have one of the best offenses of all time and have one of the more unstoppable plays in the Jokic-Murray pick and roll. So VanVleet, I don't think it makes sense how the Bulls roster is constructed right now, but maybe they make moves and switch it up a little bit. Now let's close today's show talking about Mo Bamba, because The Athletic put in an article just talking about free agents and everything, and they said watch out for the Bulls is getting Mo Bamba as possibly their backup center. I think a lot of this comes down to if Andre Drummond, his decision on his player option, if he decides to opt in, opt out. We did kind of hear the report. He was on a podcast, said he loves Chicago. He'd love to opt back in. So I do think if Drummond comes back, kind of kills the Mo Bamba thing. But Mo Bamba, the 6th overall pick in the 2018 draft by the Orlando Magic, he hasn't really lived up to that expectation. He hasn't really gotten the playing time to prove that. He's been, dealt with injuries here and there. But, Mo Bamba, freak athlete, could be an elite rim protector, a lob threat. I feel like with Mo Bamba, yes, he has the skill to kind of be more versatile, big in the NBA. But personally, I think he should just try to look at like Clint Capella and Robert Williams, that type of archetype. Like the rim run, protect the rim, be a lob threat, because he's got the size and he can move his feet very well. Like a guy like Mo Bamba, I would love on the Bulls. I think it would be a great developmental piece also for Billy Donovan and this kind of coaching staff. And I think the Bulls need more guys that do the little things well. And I do think that's what Mo Bamba does. He brings it defensively, and he's just got great size. Size wins in the NBA. Throughout NBA history, we've seen the league go from, being a more driving league, getting to the rim was more important. Then we've seen with Curry coming along, it's all about shooting. But the one thing that always wins in the NBA is size and length. Just because more length you have, the more deflections you get on basketballs. The more size you have, the more physically imposing you are to other teams. And yes, Mo Bamba might not be the most physical guy, but just his natural size can just be a disruptive force on the defensive end of the court for the Bulls. So if you could somehow get Mo Bamba on a cheaper deal and bring him in, and maybe he develops into something, I'd be all in on that. Just going to kind of have to wait and see how this Bulls roster shakes out. I think they're going to be making a lot of moves. I actually do think so. I think the Bulls free agency period could be getting a little wild, because they didn't move off LaVine or DeRozan at the draft. I think the Bulls fully intend to run this piece back and try to see if they can win a championship next season. Whether you agree with it or not, it's going to be entertaining. So I guess another reason to kind of hit that subscribe button, stay in the loop with all of us here. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. A little bit of a longer video, but I wanted to hop on here, talk about D Rose, Fred VanVleet, and Mo Bamba with you guys. Going to be an entertaining Bulls offseason, so make sure you guys subscribe. Stay in the loop. It really helps me out again. Quick, easy way, just hit that sub button if you love the Chicago Bulls. See you guys next time, and as always, go Bulls.